Hi everybody, welcome to Conversational Analytics Best Practices for LookML. The goal of this video is to explain how to best optimize your LookML for conversational analytics in Looker. Looker's semantic layer is one of the main inputs to Gemini for consistent, governed access, ensuring accuracy and consistency across teams. We will consider how to best optimize your LookML to improve performance for conversational analytics. Two of the main inputs to conversational analytics in Looker are LookML and Looker Agents. Therefore, we often get asked a question from our customers: what makes sense in LookML? And how do we use agents? Consider LookML as the deterministic foundation, acting as a single source of truth with clear field-level metadata and guardrails. Agents handle the non-deterministic behavioral interactions, offering guidance and enhancements to the user experience. For example, if I wanted to introduce some new logic for churn rate, I would create a measure in LookML and add a description tag for my definition. However, if we wanted to introduce some behavioral instructions, for example, when a user asks about churn, always group the result by customer segment and highlight the segment with the highest increase. I would give these instructions to my agent. Now, let's explore the best practices for optimizing LookML to improve your conversational analytics experience. We are assuming you have a basic level of understanding of LookML. Conversational analytics interprets natural language questions by leveraging these primary inputs. Firstly, we have the LookML model. The agent fetches the schema for the explorers that are connected to it. The schema includes fields like our dimensions and measures, filter-only fields like filters and parameters, and their corresponding labels, descriptions, and synonyms that are defined in the LookML model that underlies the Looker Explorer. The second input is distinct field values. The agent can sample data values and perform fuzzy searches to check for specific field values in the underlying database. These methods enable the agent to choose the correct fields, apply the correct filter values, and identify the available categories and entities that users might ask about. The effectiveness of conversational analytics is directly tied to the quality and clarity of these inputs. To optimize your LookML, consider these strategic themes. Firstly, enrich your LookML context. Add labels, descriptions, and synonyms to improve the semantic understanding and map user questions to the correct fields. Secondly, be intentional with the LookML Gemini has access to. Consider data hygiene best practices. Remove or hide unnecessary technical fields with the hidden parameter or extending explorers. If you have 5 different date fields, this can be confusing for any user. Thirdly, optimize performance. Adhere to Looker best practices for optimizing query performance. Now that we know the main themes, let's look at 6 common examples. Let's consider field selection. A common issue we see in LookML is the lack of clarity and naming conflicts between fields. For example, in our orders view, we could have a field called date, and in our shippings view could have a field also called date. If our user asks, what were our total sales yesterday, which date does it use? To improve the accuracy, we recommend using the label parameter to give fields intuitive, business-friendly names, and the description parameter to provide critical context, natural language definitions, and industry-specific terminology. Conversational analytics uses descriptions to better identify field meanings and map user terms. Next, let's talk about field bloat. It's tempting to give the AI access to everything just in case, but exposing too many fields is like giving a driver a map with every single back alley and driveway labeled. It just makes it harder to find the highway. Imagine your agent is looking at a view cluttered with internal IDs, system timestamps, and 3 different intermediate calculations for tax. When your user asks which region had the most growth, the agent has to sift through region ID, region code, region final version 2, and old region deprecated. If it picks the internal ID instead of the actual region name, the user doesn't get a helpful answer. They get a list of database keys. To combat this, we recommend hiding any irrelevant fields by using the hidden parameter, or even consider extending explorers. For explorers with many fields, consider a dedicated version for conversational analytics by using the extends parameter or refinements for specific descriptions. Here's an example of some bad and better LookML in practice. On the left, we have 3 dimensions named address 1, address 2, and address 3. We have no labels, descriptions, and this is confusing to any user. On the right, we have introduced some better LookML hygiene. This includes clear labels for each dimension, descriptions, synonyms, and hiding any redundant fields. Having considered naming conflicts and field bloat, the next important feature is database load. Every time a user types a specific value into a chat, like a specific product name or customer city, the agent often has to reach back into the database to verify those values or provide suggestions. Think of it like a waiter running back to the kitchen every time a customer asks if a single ingredient is in stock. If your database is massive and your LookML isn't optimized, those quick questions start to lag. By strategically using Looker's suggestion parameters and being intentional about which fields are searchable, you are making the conversation feel more efficient and instantaneous. Beyond just searching for values, we have to look at the database load for the data queries themselves. When a user asks a broad question like, "How have our global trends changed over the last 3 years?" the agent translates that into a SQL query. If your LookML isn't optimized, that query could be a large multi-join query that can take seconds to run. To keep the experience snappy, we recommend adhering to best practices for optimizing query performance in LookML, such as leverage always filters in your explorers, aggregate awareness to optimize queries, and using efficient joins. This keeps your latency low and your users happy. Sometimes, we take shortcuts by creating custom fields or table calculations directly on a specific dashboard. To a human looking at that one chart, it looks fine, but to the agent that logic simply doesn't exist. It's trapped in the dashboard layer, invisible to the rest of the model. If your net profit calculation only lives as a table calculation on a single dashboard, and a user asks the agent, "What was our net profit in Q3?" the agent will look at the LookML, fail to find the formula, and either give up or give us a different field. To build a truly conversational experience, you must move that logic out of the dashboard and into the LookML layer. When you codify your logic at the root, you're not just building a chart, you're giving the agent the brain it needs to answer that question anywhere, anytime. And finally, even with perfect logic, you can still run into the messy data hurdle. Conversational analytics thrives on patterns, but when your underlying data is inconsistent, those patterns break down. Consider value variations. If your status column contains a mix of values for a field, the agent sees 3 different things. When a user asks for completed orders, the agent might only grab one version, leaving a chunk of your data behind. Then, there's the trap of inconsistent data types. We've all seen it. A column that should be numeric, but has a stray NA or unknown string buried in a row. This forces the entire field to be treated as a string, which means the agent can't perform math. It can't sum, average, or calculate a trend on a field. To optimize these scenarios, we recommend addressing data quality where possible. Work with your data engineering team to clean up your source data, or apply consistent transformations in the ETL layer. To wrap things up, let's look at the big picture for your LookML strategy. Building a great conversational analytics experience isn't about doing more work. It's about doing the right work in your model. It starts with clear labels and seamless mapping. If you name your fields the way your business users actually talk, the agent doesn't have to guess. Efficiency is just as important as accuracy. By streamlining context, hiding those technical ID fields that only a developer would love, you reduce the noise and keep the agent focused on what matters. Pair that with search optimization and query efficiency, using tools like aggregate awareness and caching, to ensure that when the agent does find the answer, it delivers it instantly without straining your database. Ultimately, it all comes back to centralized logic. When you define your calculations as a single source of truth in LookML, you're ensuring that whether a user looks at a dashboard or asks a question in a chat, they get the same, trusted answer every single time. Master these 6 pillars, and you've moved from just having data to having a truly intelligent data assistant. Thanks for watching. If you have any feedback on this video, please scan the QR code to fill out a short form. Your input helps us improve future content.